Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the wait and sorry for the delay in starting this webinar. We were just getting some of the questions in order, and we have a fair number of questions that were asked from last time. So thank you for doing that. For those who are new to this webinar, hi, my name is Jeev Sahoo. Sahoo, like Yahoo. I speak about well-being topics, especially from a common sense perspective, I would say. Um, I have spent about 2.5 decades in the automotive and technology industry, moving into investment side and creating companies and running companies. And I feel that there are topics that are not addressed to the right extent, and we still have a stigma attached to topics related to well-being. When we speak about mental well-being, especially, people think, oh, should I say this? Should I not say this? And there is a lot of confusion. So what we have started is every Tuesday, we answer questions. You can ask them anonymously looking at the QR code right here. And of course, I do get some spam, but some of the questions have been very powerful, and I've got feedback from people that it has been very helpful. So instead of being our own psychologist, let us try to get this answer as a group. It's a diminishing problem when we speak as a group. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do. It does something to the algorithm so that other people can get the same kind of videos and more relevant information. At the same time, you can get better videos as well. Please like and share. So let's get on with it. Um, like I said, one of the key things is the questions are anonymous, so I will answer them, making it a bit generic. I won't repeat the exact question, but I know the person who has asked the question is getting the answer. And today, one of the key things that I have been asked, the overarching topic, is how do we recognize anxiety in our body physically? And this is a very, very important topic. So if you don't recognize the problem, it becomes very unfortunate. In fact, it's like living with a mild flu for a long, long time, because when it becomes severe, you go and take help, and when it is extremely small, you think you can overcome it. And especially people who are business owners, leaders, own bosses, and so forth, we try to we try to tough it out, and toughing it out is not really helpful. You can see on the screen, 4 in 5 small business owners have told Ivoca and Mental Health UK that they're experiencing poor mental health. And if you Google these statistics, I have some stats that I have collected as well. 3 in 5, which is 60%, are on the borderline of clinical anxiety. And people just go on with their life. They come to office, they work, and they still don't seek help because they think it is not, it's just part of stress, it's just part of burnout or something, or it's just part of these days economy and so forth, the post-COVID. Well, you got to take some help. And one of the easiest thing we could start with is to start talking about it, to start sharing what is going on without the feeling of shame. Well, if I'm feeling anxious or for something, is it really anxious? If you have gone through some of our workshops, you can go through your emotional vocabulary. Is it anxiety? Is it disrespect that somebody showed you at workplace and so forth? But it all starts with a talk. And one of the times where you start speaking about this is when you don't need to speak about this. It's extremely contradictory, but the highest amount of prevention is done when um, things are very mild. In the last week's webinar, we saw the compounding effect of mild things. So even if you do small good things every day, the compounding effect actually increases and it becomes better and better. The same thing, if there is a mild problem and we don't address it, over a period of few days or few months or few years, it becomes really worse. We go through something called as anxiety distraction, cycle. I mean, we feel initially a bit uncomfortable. We distract ourselves, go eat something, or watch Netflix, or do something that takes us away from that thought, but it comes back again. And as the cycle continues, it becomes worse and worse. So, when do you speak about mental health? When you have started looking at the symptoms of overwhelm, going towards burnout, too many priorities, and you don't know how to manage this. Everything seems to be priority zero or priority one, you know. People who are extremely calm are now breaking down emotionally. Maybe some stress is there. Something is happening. And initially we think it is stress, but when it has become physical, today we are going to talk about some physical symptoms. I'll connect it with emotional, cognitive, and so forth. But when it crosses the line to become a physical symptom, it has become proper anxiety. And even though, I mean, for the formal version of anxiety, I would say, they include symptoms like sweating, symptoms like fidgeting, symptoms like not able to take quick decisions when you used to take quick decisions, but you feel some version of unclarity. Initially, people think that if I take a vacation, if I take a day off, things will become better, and it does not. I mean, if it does, great. But if it does not, then start looking at patterns. Um, if you see people worried about economy and money and dealing with uncertainty, those are the times to start the discussion already. Don't wait until someone says the ultimate thing in life. At that time, we have to really contact the nearest emergency provider and take some help. But 80 to 90% of situations are when we start with normal frustration that goes on and on without any solution. And I will list down a couple of a few physical symptoms over here, but things like sleeplessness, things like restlessness, things like indecisiveness. Procrastination is one thing which is, again, bordering on some version of anxiety. There is a question which clearly asked what is the difference between anxiety and depression. And we had a full 20-minute webinar on that particular topic, but I'll give you a summary answer. Anxiety is about avoiding a stressful situation. If you feel stressed about, let's say, a presentation coming, and you're feeling sweating in hands and so forth, you try to avoid that situation and so forth. But depression is about helplessness and a version of giving up, where you still have the presentation, but instead of preparing for it or getting ready for it, or feeling the sweaty hands or anything of that kind, you might just say, if I do it this way or if I do it that way, it doesn't matter. So let me just lay on the couch and do nothing, and so forth. That would be a simple way of looking, of explaining that. Okay. Of course, there are more clinical ways and more jargon heavy ways to explain this. uh, yeah, that particular question popped up in the chat over here about anxiety versus depression. In fact, I don't have the slide over here, but uh, there is a ladder: stress, then it goes to versions of burnout, then it goes to versions of anxiety or depression. And how do we distinguish it? Is stress is effectively a, a response to your environment, to a change in your environment. It can be a positive response, it can be a negative response, or unhelpful response. The positive response is where, I mean, it's the eustress that people say, that you are getting ready to do something about the thing. You are getting ready for the presentation, getting ready for the work, getting ready for doing something. So that's the positive aspect of it. If you do not have that, you won't be able to do it, um, or uh, or you won't be able to even save yourself from the situation as well. When the same unhelpful response happens again and again, and repeatedly, which I mean, it leads to burnout, which means you are always in a state of unhelpful stress, and you're still capable of doing it. You feel capable of doing it, but you are not having restoration anymore. If you don't have restoration, you start losing out on the physical side of things, emotional side of things, and so forth. Remember the simple model that we show in some of our slides. Simple: S for social, I for individual, M for monetary, P for physical, L for love life, and E for emotional. And in the middle, we keep the emotions. In fact, I might have that slide, few slides down today. You can take a screenshot of it, but you start seeing that. And then from burnout, if you haven't processed that burnout properly, you might go either towards anxiety or depression or oscillate between the two, depending on the situation. And the keywords mentioned there, anxiety is about avoidance and depression is a bit towards helplessness, where you say, if I do it or I don't do it, doesn't matter kind of situation. Okay, I hope that answers that particular question on the chat. So yeah, we have to start talking when we start seeing overwhelm, burnout, emotional breakdowns. There is one example that comes to mind which people don't see. People see the movie version of emotional breakdowns, but when somebody becomes extremely quiet, that is also an emotional breakdown. If the person is normally quite chatty and all of a sudden is going inwards and not talking with anyone else, not sociable at all, there is something going on. There is a cry for help, but no one is hearing it. In fact, to quote a real client from one of my workshops, I want to shout at the world, but no one is there to listen. That kind of explanation is there. So emotional breakdown doesn't always look like the movie kind where people are crying and shouting and stuff like that. It can be the silent type as well. So look out for that change in behavior. Um, we look at a bunch of kinds of anxiety disorders, but the focus is on general anxiety. And there are two big reasons on that. Before I say, let me just list down the anxiety disorders. We start with generalized anxiety, excessive worry and tension without any specific reason. Separation anxiety is about when a person you're close to leaves your sight. Panic disorder, sudden intense fear, bringing a panic attack. Agoraphobia is about places, fear of being in a place hard to escape, and it can be in a relationship, by the way. Um, Specific phobia are specific to specific objects or living or non-living. And social anxiety is overwhelming fear and worry, being extremely judgmental of yourself in social conditions. But yeah, we do focus mainly on the general anxiety. Now, I said there are two reasons. One reason is 80 to 90% of us are in that stage, even in a day-to-day life. We do a GAD assessment, and if the score goes beyond a specific number, we have to refer to an emergency professional. But the questions are simple. In the last 2 weeks, how many times have you felt this and that, and so forth? And many a times we are going through general anxiety without knowing it. 2 weeks ago, I met a gentleman who was going through hay fever, and he said, "I always get hay fever." And within 2 weeks, and this is from 2 weeks ago, and we simply had talking sessions in between. And even in the same kind of environment, he does not get hay fever because hay fever was a general anxiety symptom for him. He was going through a certain set of routine thoughts, and that used to somehow coincide with the hay fever season as well, and that was not helpful at all. Of course, there is a physical reason, but it was general anxiety, and you will be surprised how many simple physical symptoms, mild symptoms, are related with general anxiety. We spoke about stress, burnout, anxiety, and depression, so I'll move on. And this is the slide. I will just stay a few more minutes because we have questions related to this one. If you have a pen and paper, please take some notes. I'll try to share some notes in a slide or something, but let's go through the four kinds of symptoms that we have when we are going through anxiety: physical, behavioral, emotional, and cognitive. And let's start with physical. Body pains, which are not directly related to some physical injury, sleeplessness, or excessive sleeping. Both of them could be directly related to some version of general anxiety, generalized anxiety, um, feeling extremely hungry or not hungry at all. Both these extremes are something that are symptoms. Talk with your physician, talk with a GP, and check yourself out. Things that you loved to do, you don't feel like doing. These are combining the physical and behavioral aspect over here. We are switching slowly to the behavior side of things. People who are normally smiling are being they are withdrawing to themselves or being too sarcastic. I mean, you're overcoming with some coping mechanism. You're feeling anxious about that situation, and in order to come out of that situation, what you have done is just made a joke about it. And maybe that's the kind of joke you normally don't make. I'm just using the example. When I say you, it could be anybody. The person normally doesn't make those kind of jokes, but now they are making some similar kind of jokes, and you see a behavior change. Maybe they just wanted to talk about that topic with someone, and they had no other way to talk except make a sarcastic joke as a coping mechanism. Um, Lack of sleep and or oversleeping or eating too much and so forth, and this is where we slowly move towards substance abuse, alcohol, smoking, any other substance that we start creating a dependence on. We start choosing certain things. Okay, it could be even as simple as ice cream, but addictions can be starting at this point. This is the starting phase where we need to start talking at this phase. There is a question, how do you define addiction? When the substance or the environment, and many times we skip that environment, but environment could be addictive as well. You want to be in a specific place or specific environment. When that thing is controlling you, then you're addicted to it. If you control that substance or the environment, you are in charge. So that's the clinical definition of addiction in here. But yeah, that's a simple way. If you are not able to control yourself, maybe you should start talking with someone, because there is a chance that you are becoming dependent on that situation or that substance. And this is where we see the behavioral changes as well. Unknown pains, muscle pain, always feeling tired, um, uh, things related to dryness of eyes. Because see, depending on the situation, you might be in a stressful situation for too long, and the body is creating chemicals which are keeping you in a state of readiness, and you're feeling dry in your mouth, dry in your eyes, or breathing too much or breathing too shallow. These are the things that you see in the change. Now, all these are in the general phase, because I could be explaining extremely severe symptoms as well, like you see in either in emergency rooms or in movies, but they have crossed the line of being general anxiety. Why am I not going into that? We have to call the local professional, emergency professionals, NHS, and so forth. And we have crossed a line at that point. But the milder versions are the ones that you please look out. Don't live with those milder things. If you're feeling sweaty palms each time you open a spreadsheet, if you're feeling excessive body tiredness each time you're working in a specific environment, these are milder symptoms, and this is the time where the highest amount of impact can be done by starting to talk. Okay, so this is where you start seeing the changes, and combine that with emotional side of things, where emotional, excessive laughing, excessive crying without reason, excessive expression of emotions, or lack of emotion. Like I mentioned, the silent type, you normally are in a different, in a specific behavior state, but everybody now finds us in a very silent state. We need to talk. with somebody, with a friend, with a colleague. We need to feel safe with the person we are talking with, and sometimes this person has to be someone outside our network. Why? So that we don't have our previous baggage to talk with, and we don't have our previous fears coming back to us. So speaking completely with a neutral person is extremely useful over there. Now, on the emotional side, you might feel overwhelm is also there. I mean, the switching of emotions is very frequent. One, you're feeling happy, and then you're feeling sad, and you're feeling tired all at the same time. um, have a think about that. If you or a friend is going through that, first of all, I mean, here I remember the green, red, and yellow states. Just come to the green state by one, taking rest or food or water. Okay, take care of your body, take care of your physical surroundings, take care of that to start with. Then slow down a bit, take some deep breaths, because it is combination of physical as well as emotional side of things. Slow down. If you're feeling like using abusive words or swearing words, etc., then stop, or remove yourself from the environment, and replace it with a different thing, so that you can come to the green state, or a ready, your version of normal state is that state, go state. Okay, and then look at that, and try to come to an engaging kind of emotion. I know I'm referring to some of the tools that we use. Some of these are available on our website, and if you go back 3 webinars, I believe, we have shared the emotions matrix. What do we do in the emotions matrix is, if you're feeling frustrated, it helps you understand, is it really frustrated, or was it a lack of response from a colleague? Is it really lack of response, or was it lack of uh, I would say uh, attention in specific case, and so forth, and it helps you start splitting one big umbrella emotion into smaller states. Okay, and these smaller states are easier to manage, especially if you have now pointed out, okay, you know what, I should have got a bit more respect in that particular situation. What can I do about that situation? And then you slowly break it down into connecting emotions there. Okay, if I had asked this kind of question, see, there are things you cannot control, there are things you can control. So do things that you can control in that particular situation. We have a little matrix that we can share with you, and then switch back to the connective side, and slowly you start feeling calm, and then you move to some version of creativity, some version of curiousness, and so forth. Now comes, yeah, I can see the chat coming in. Cognitive, what is cognitive? What is cognitive in this issue? How do we look at anxiety when cognition comes in? The easiest way to put it is, it's about recognition. How do you recognize a situation, and it's about decision making. Now, one of the simplest thing that happens when you're feeling stressed out and inching towards anxiety is you feel difficult to take decisions. Even if the decision is a simple one, whether to lock the door or not, as simple as that. And if you are spotting these kind of things, pause. If you are spotting these kind of things in a colleague, pause. So these are the things that are extreme. Whenever you're looking at decision making is something extremely um, powerful. If you are taking simpler decisions and now not being able to take the decisions, pause, slow down, take care of your body and mind, and come back to a version of normalcy that will help you take better decisions as well. Brilliant. So I'm just a bit of conscious of time, and I know we did not go more into the cognition side, but remember, it is about decision making. The brain fog that comes in is the starting point where you feel more anxious in here. But today I really wanted to share a bit more about the physical side of things, but it connects with physical, behavioral, emotional, and cognitive. If you spot any of this, I'm going back one couple of slides. If you spot any of this, you will see overwhelm, you might see burnout, some version of emotional breakdown, some version of worry. It might be about health, it might be about relationship, money, or some version of uncertainty. These are the times we start talking. Don't wait until it is too late. These are the times we can make bigger impact if we talk about this. And for some of the questions we have asked, I have sent a couple of answers on the chat itself over here. And for the workplace related questions that are on the chat, this would be 4 webinars before we have a dedicated session on workplace related things. And I can actually take some questions next webinar as well. Let me go to the slide that says, shows the link. Yeah, please click on this link and you can look at the workplace related questions as well. Remember, you are not alone. We are alone together. So let's talk safely with Mindly. Keep asking questions. These are questions that increase the conversations about a topic which carries so much of stigma. But come on, there is no health without mental health, and there is no health without emotional health. So why be shy? So let's keep talking and see you next Tuesday. Recordings of this will be available on the YouTube channel. Thank you for attending and keep taking care.